My ex-husband is happily remarried, and I can't stop regretting how I ruined our marriage. The silence in this house is a physical presence. It has weight. It settles on the furniture like a layer of dust, muffles the sound of my own breathing, and presses down on my chest when I try to sleep. It's a silence paid for with the currency of my youth and arrogance, a silence I own, free and clear, just like the deed to this empty four-bedroom colonial. Tonight, the silence is particularly loud. Liam, my son, is with his father. He's always with his father on Tuesday nights, but tonight is different. He left his school iPad on the kitchen counter, and when a notification pinged, my hand moved on its own, a shared photo album. The album's name was Disney 2024 Planning. My thumb, betraying every rational thought in my head, tapped it open. There he was. My Mark. Her Mark now. He was grinning, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners in a way I hadn't seen since before Liam was born. He had his arm around his new wife, Isabella. Isabella, the 31-year-old architect with sun-streaked brown hair that fell in effortless waves, skin that glowed with collagen and happiness, and eyes the color of warm honey. She was holding their daughter, a little 3-year-old cherub named Maya, who was a perfect miniature blend of them both. My son, Liam, stood next to Mark, beaming, wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt he must have just gotten. They were a portrait of perfection, a complete, thriving, happy family. And I, Chloe, at 41, felt the familiar acidic burn of jealousy rise in my throat. I didn't just see a picture. I saw the ghost of a life I had willingly exorcised, now haunting me from a 6-inch screen. Isabella didn't just have my husband, she had the upgraded version, the Mark II. The man who had finally learned to be the partner I'd always demanded, but for someone else. She had my son's adoration, a new daughter, a beautiful new house I'd only seen on Zillow, and my future. She was living the life that was supposed to be mine. The worst part, the part that gnaws at me in the dead of night, is that I'm the one who handed it to her. 11 years ago, I was a different woman, or perhaps I was the most authentic version of myself, and the universe has spent the last decade punishing me for it. At 30, I was, in my own estimation, magnificent. I had bounced back from pregnancy with a vengeance. Hours at the gym while the baby napped had chiseled my body back into the firm, lithe shape it had been at 25. I was a stay-at-home mom, yes, but I saw myself as the CEO of our household. Mark was just an employee. He was a good man, a kind, steady, patient man who worked a grueling 50-hour week as a software engineer. He loved me with a quiet, profound devotion that I mistook for weakness. I had him, as my mother used to say with a wink, wrapped around my little finger. I treated his love not as a gift to be cherished, but as a resource to be exploited. Our fights were never about anything monumental. There was no infidelity, no addiction, no cruelty. Our marriage died a death of 1,000 cuts, and I held the knife for every single one. I remember one Tuesday, almost identical to tonight, except the house was a symphony of chaos. Liam, a teething 1-year-old, was wailing in his high chair, his face a sticky canvas of mashed bananas. The sink overflowed with bottles and plates. The air was heavy with the smell of soured milk. I'd been in a state of low-grade warfare with the house all day, and I was losing. Mark walked in at 6:30, his shoulders slumped from the commute. He dropped his briefcase, his face a mask of exhaustion. Before he could even say hello, I pointed a spoon dripping with baby food at him. "Finally," I said, my voice sharp. "The living room is a disaster. The dishwasher needs emptying. And I gestured to our screaming son, needs a bath. I've been doing this all day. It's your turn." He didn't argue. He never did, not at first. He just sighed, a deep, weary sound that should have been a warning siren. "Okay, Chloe, let me just put my stuff down." "It would be nice if you showed a little urgency," I'd snipped. "Some of us don't get to sit in a quiet office all day." He looked at me then, and I saw a flicker of something behind his eyes. Not anger. Something more like erosion. He was being worn away, grain by grain. He bathed Liam, cleaned the kitchen, and collapsed onto the couch at 9 p.m., I sat beside him, scrolling through Instagram, pointedly ignoring him. He tried to take my hand. "Tough day?" he asked softly. I pulled my hand away. "What do you think?" That was our dynamic. I was the perpetually aggrieved party, and he was the one perpetually in arrears. I used my exhaustion as a bludgeon and my beauty as a bargaining chip. When I wanted a weekend away or a new piece of furniture we couldn't quite afford, I wouldn't argue. I'd just grow cold, distant. The affection he craved would be put on lockdown until he capitulated. He always did. He loved me, and I used that love to get what I wanted. The final straw was an argument over a vacation. My college friends were planning a trip to Cancun. I announced I was going. Mark, ever the pragmatist, brought up our finances. We were trying to save. We had a mortgage, a child. "It's just for a week, Mark," I said, my voice dripping with condescension. "It's not like I'm asking for a new car." "Chloe, it's $2,000 we don't have right now." "Fine," I snapped, turning away. "I guess I'll just stay here and stare at the four walls while you go to your fancy work lunches. My friends will understand that my husband has me on a leash." "That's not fair," he said, his voice finally rising. "That is not fair at all. What's not fair is that I gave up my career to raise our son while you get to have a life." The words were out before I could stop them, a lie I'd told myself so many times I almost believed it. And then I delivered the killing blow, the threat I'd used as a trump card before. "Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I should just take Liam, and we should get a divorce." I expected him to panic, to backpedal, to promise me anything. Instead, he just stood there, looking at me with a profound and terrifying stillness. "The baby is just stressing us out, Chloe," he said, his voice hollow. "We can make this work. I want to make this work." But I didn't hear his plea. I heard his exhaustion, and my arrogant mind translated it as defeat. Later that night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, analyzing my reflection. The lines of my jaw were sharp, my skin was clear, my body was tight. I am 30 years old. I thought with a thrilling surge of power. I am a great catch. I can do better than this. I can find a man who appreciates me, who doesn't make me feel like I have to beg for a little bit of fun. I thought leaving him was an act of strength. It was the most childish, self-destructive decision of my life. I filed for divorce the next month. I was so sure of my value on the open market that I was generous. I just wanted the house, the symbol of the life I'd built in joint custody. He agreed without a fight. The relief in his eyes should have told me everything. He wasn't losing me. He was escaping me. The first few years after the divorce were a blur of misguided optimism. I felt free. The house was finally quiet, organized exactly how I wanted it. My time with Liam was my own. My time without Liam was also my own, a vast, open frontier of possibility. I re-entered the dating scene with the confidence of a conquering hero. It didn't take long for that confidence to curdle into confusion, then desperation. The men my age were often a mess. The ones who had their lives together were looking for something specific, and a 32-year-old single mother with a mortgage wasn't it. There was David, the investment banker who took me to fancy dinners, but whose eyes glazed over the second I mentioned Liam had a soccer game. After the third date, he ghosted me. There was Ben, another single dad who seemed promising until I realized our only conversations were logistics trading about babysitters and school districts. There was no romance, only a shared sense of being overwhelmed. The men without kids, the ones I thought I wanted, treated me like a curiosity. "It's so cool that you're a mom," they'd say, as if I were a talking dog, before making it clear they were only interested in something casual. I began to notice a frustrating double standard. Mark, who now had Liam every other weekend, seemed to have no trouble. He was the fun dad. Women saw a man with a child and thought, responsible, caring, good with kids. Men saw a woman with a child and thought, baggage, drama. An instant family I didn't sign up for. It was infuriating. Meanwhile, the house began to feel less like a castle and more like a cage. The silence I once craved became an oppressive blanket. The weekends Liam was gone were the worst. I'd fill them with errands and gym sessions, but by Sunday night, the loneliness was a palpable ache. I would scroll through social media, a masochistic ritual, watching my married friends post pictures of family hikes and game nights. I told myself I was better off, that their lives were boring and domestic. It was a lie I clung to like a life raft. I had to get a job. My alimony wasn't enough to cover the rising costs of everything. With a 10-year gap in my resume, my options were limited. I ended up as an administrative assistant at a dental supply company. The work was soul-crushing. Data entry, scheduling, answering phones. My useless job, I call it. I, who had once seen myself as a CEO, was now ordering toner cartridges and fielding calls from angry dentists. Every day was a stark reminder of the life I'd thrown away. The weight of my choices began to settle on me, not in pounds on the scale, but in a deep internal weariness. And then, about 4 years ago, I heard from a mutual friend that Mark was getting serious with someone. Her name was Isabella. She was younger, a successful architect, and by all accounts, wonderful. A part of me, the petty, ugly part, hoped it would fail. It didn't. They got married. They bought a new house in a better school district. Then they had Maya. Which brings me back to tonight. Staring at this picture, the physical signs of my failed decade feel more pronounced than ever. I turn on the bathroom light and force myself to look in the mirror. My therapist, Dr. Albright, suggested this. Confront the reality, Chloe, don't run from it. The face staring back at me is not the one from my memory. It's my mother's face, 20 years younger. The skin around my eyes is a fine web of lines from years of squinting at a computer screen and from worry. 2 deep grooves bracket my mouth. I've gained 20 pounds, a soft, stubborn layer around my middle that no amount of half-hearted dieting can seem to budge. The youthful confidence is gone, replaced by a permanent look of disappointment. Dr. Albright meant well. You're reminiscing about how you looked and comparing yourself to his new wife, she'd said in her calm, measured voice. Why don't you do something that makes you feel good about yourself? A makeover, perhaps. Reclaim your image. So, I did. I spent $300 on a new hairstyle, a chic, layered bob that the stylist promised would take 10 years off me. It didn't. It just looked like a trendy haircut on a tired, middle-aged woman. I looked in the mirror at the salon and felt nothing but the hollow echo of the money I'd spent. No matter what I do, I cannot escape the simple, brutal truth. I am 41. I am no longer the hot, young thing who thought the world was her oyster. I feel like a dumpster standing next to Isabella. She isn't just younger and more beautiful. She's a success. She has a career she loves, a family that adores her. She is reaping the harvest of the seeds I refuse to water. She gets the Mark who learned from his mistakes with me. The Mark who knows now to be an equal partner, to communicate, to value his family above all else. I was the rough draft. She gets the final, published masterpiece. My son loves her. That's the sharpest pain of all. When he comes home from their house, he's full of stories. Bella taught me how to make pizza from scratch. Maya said my name today. Dad and Bella are taking us to the mountains next month. He talks about their life with a joy that is pure and innocent, and I have to smile and pretend it doesn't feel like 1,000 tiny needles piercing my heart. I should be happy that he's happy, but my selfish, broken heart just feels replaced. This is probably the most honest I've been, even with myself, in a long time. I know Reddit and all the pop psychology blogs preach the gospel of singledom, of being a powerful, independent woman who needs no man. Be alone. Find yourself. It's all empowering nonsense when you're staring down the barrel of another solitary decade. This is not an ideal life. This is not a life I would wish on my worst enemy. I close the iPad and the screen goes dark, replacing the happy family with my own ghostly reflection. I see it all so clearly now. I see my younger self, so smug and sure, tearing down a perfectly good life because I thought I deserved more. I didn't deserve more. I deserved exactly what I had. I just wasn't wise enough to recognize it. I wish I could go back. I would grab that 30-year-old girl by the shoulders, shake her, and tell her to wake up, to see the good man in front of her, to be a better wife. to understand that marriage isn't a fairy tale, but a garden that you have to tend every single day through storms and drought. I let my garden wither and die, and now I just get to watch from over the fence as someone else enjoys the beautiful one they planted in its place. The silence of the house rushes back in to fill the void. It's just me and the ghost of the woman I used to be, in the house that was once our home, and I am so miserable.